If you've listened to the station, John Granado mentioned it the other day. Alex Bregman is moving to Arizona. He's picking up. He's leaving. And the question is going to be, because Dana Brown has been one to sit here and tell you all the time he wants to get deals done for Bregman and Altuve and wants them to be Astros for life. Well, can they get both of them done this offseason? Bob Nightingale was on with Patrick Creighton last night on Late Hits and had this to say about the Altuve and Bregman situation and who might be here and who won't be here.
Do you think that they will be able to keep both Altuve and Bregman, or will it only be Altuve?
I think only Altuve. I think he's the guy. I think they want to make him an Astro for life. I think Bregman's, asking price will be high. You're probably talking about, over $250 to $300 million. And, just because of his age, Altuve will be, much cheaper because of his age. I just think Altuve means more to the organization. I just think, they want him. He spent the rest of his career, go to the Hall of Fame as an Astro. And we've done playing, in Astro front office.
You guys have heard me say it. The lowest line you can go on the Bregman deal is the Rendon deal. I truly do believe that. And when you hear Bob Nightingale say the same thing, basically, is and I told you this. I've told you the story about we were in spring training this past year, and I away from everything, jokingly said to him, "Hey, you could pay for this with your new $300 million contract next year," and he just smiled and walked away because that's what he wants. That's why he's picking up and getting himself ready for his next life. He's probably going to sign with a team that's got spring training out there in Arizona, and he's going to spend most of his time out there and retire out there because, no offense to our great city, Arizona's a pretty great place to live. I just think that we're going towards that end-game scenario here. There is 0% chance that Alex Bregman is going to be here after this year. He is not worth a $300 million contract.
No.
He's not worth a $250 million contract. I love him to death. He has declined as a player, and he is going to be 30 years old. I'm just going to be completely honest with it. He does not have the sustainable power to his game anymore that says you pay this guy $300 million. You can go to the Machado comparisons, the whole market at third base, Devers, whatever it might be,
right.
The guys that have the $300 million deals, and he has a lot of numbers that look similar to theirs in certain categories, but he does not have something that's similar in recent years, power. He has declined as a power-hitting player, and he is too often, unfortunately, been a guy that is going to disappear for large portions of the season, start poorly, and it's just a business decision. If you were ever going to make the case on signing players with these deals, we've talked about it. You do it for a Kyle Tucker who's in his 20s. I would have considered doing it for a Carlos Correa who was in his mid-20s at the time when his contract was coming up as well. You don't do it for a 30-year-old. As much as we all love him and we would like to see him wear nothing but an Astros uniform, it's happening. Prepare yourself for this in-game scenario. Alex Bregman is going to make a ton of money somewhere else, and it's going to be a fan base that, unfortunately for him one day, is going to look at it and go, God, what were we doing with this contract?
Yeah, I'm fine with him going somewhere else. I'm truly fine with the Astros not bringing him back. The biggest issue with that is, if not him, then who? Like, what direction do you go with the position? If it's not going to be Alex Bregman, do you just go sign some guy to be a filler, like to be a stopgap and a short-term answer until you can find your long-term answer? Do you go try to make a trade for some kind of maybe like a prospect that can move up while you have that short-term answer? Do you go try to trade for a young guy? What do you do? What do you do at that position? Because that's my only issue with not trying to figure out a contract with him.
Let's go ahead and look. What are the 2025 MLB free agents? I would assume he's probably going to be the best third baseman that's available. I mean, their only way to fill that void would be to
a free agency.
Yeah,
they have to fill it instantly.
They
through free
don't
agency.
have anybody that is. They don't have anybody that is going to be a third base option inside of the organization. It's just a fact,
right.
Unfortunately for them. I'm just pulling it up here real quick. You could go get the likes of a Yohan Moncada, but he has a club option for $25 million that year. You could also go and pick up Eugenio Suarez, who has a club option with the Mariners, actually. So how about Aledmus Diaz? You could bring him back. He could play third base. No.
No.
It's hard no. What about
probably
Wilmer
not.
Flores? No, he plays first base. Yeah, so the options aren't great. The options are not great. You could bring back J.D. Davis.
Nah.
He's actually been okay since he's left.
Nah.
I'm just saying.
Probably not. Like that's really bad.
They're gonna
I
have
didn't even
to
realize
hope,
the list was that bad.
You know what they're gonna have to hope is, and I forget his name that they just took in the draft in the first round, the shortstop, that he develops very quickly and he's gonna be ready for the big leagues and he can go play shortstop or third base or Pena can move to third, whatever it might be. That's what they're gonna have to do.
But
But this is gonna be the start. I don't want to be Mr. Debbie Downer. This is the start of the end of the window.
Yes.
When a player like this walks away after they've had so many players like this walk away, this is the start of the window shortening even more. It doesn't mean it's over, but it is.
But it's closed. The door is starting to slowly close. It's not. The door is still wide open, right? But it's not staying still open. It's wide open, but it's starting to slowly close. Bryce Matthews was that pick that they had in the first round,
Bryce
shortstop
Matthews.
out of Nebraska.
Yeah,
which
he's
I think
local kid.
I do think he's going to be good.
Got a long way to go with the bat.
Well, that's the other option that they have is to take some of the little bit that they still have in the farm system and try to trade for a third baseman. That is an option, but I don't think that that's a particularly great option.
No, I don't think it is either. You don't want to stopgap stuff. I don't know.
Would they consider now? This is something else that we saw with the Astros. We saw this from John Morosi, and it looks like the Astros have discussed trade talks.
Baby.
Involving outfielder Jake Myers with multiple teams in recent weeks. So what if would you consider taking Jake Myers and moving him for maybe a third base prospect or something like that could end up?
I can't imagine it's getting you any kind of actual prospect.
Nothing.
He's just not good.
What's the most do you think that Jake Myers gets you? He'd have to be a part of a bigger package, right?
Middling reliever.
Oh.
At best. That's it. At best.
Yeah,
like a guy you'd pitch in the fifth inning.
Is there any? Do you think there's any world, any way, any hope that the Astros could convince Alex Bregman to take a slightly smaller deal?
Nope.
No, just zero at all. Is that full on vibes from him?
It's done. I'm telling you,
that's awful.
Is Jake Myers' value worse than what we saw with Miles Straw when they traded him away at the deadline, or is it about equal?
I think it's worse, right? Because Miles Straw was at least a base stealer. Does Jake Myers even steal bases that often?
Not well.
And then when you watch his noodle arm out there in center field try to throw the ball. Like, I always feel bad. It looks like he's shot putting it. It's bad. I don't think he's got any value. They're in a weird spot, man. Like I'm with. It would be you. Of course, you make the phone calls. You have the discussions with Scott Boras. You see what it's going to take, but you know in the back of your head it's not happening. And I think they've known that for a long time. And if they were going to get it done, they would have done it a few years ago. It's just as simple as that. They would have extended it while it was 2 or 3 years away to where it had another 4 years onto the deal or something.
Then they have to pay Tucker. You said that the other day, but that's the more and more I start to feel about, hey, if you're going to let Alex Bregman walk and sign a huge deal with somebody else, you have to pay Kyle Tucker.
I'm with you.
I don't care what his performance in this last postseason was. You have to pay him because you have to find a way to extend this window. And not paying Kyle Tucker is not an option at this point.
I think that's the only way to do it. Now, filling that void in the middle of the lineup that Bregman does leave is going to be significant. I can sit here and downplay what he's done and whatever it might be or not like certain things. At the end of the day, it will still be a very huge void to fill.